So I have not actually listened to that much of your casting. I've actually tuned in for I would have to say a grand total of like maybe 5 minutes. So I haven't actually managed to catch very much of your casting. So hit me with your strengths and weaknesses. What do you think you do well as a caster?
Strengths and weaknesses. I'd say the primary strengths are good tone, not very boring, fun to listen to. Gotten a lot better in particular at doing the play-by-play. Um, I think my analysis is obviously not at pro level because my MMR is not that high yet,
Sure.
not that great. But I do think I do provide. The game is fun. Like you can engage the game without sounding like you're wasting your time. Even people who know more about the game still find something worth listening to from that analytical portion of things because I'm often casting alone. I think I've gotten very good at covering like both bases of being able to work with other people. If I'm working alone, I can sort of like provide a lot of fill, but that doesn't sound like fill, not a waste of your time. But if I'm casting with somebody else, because I'm so used to being by myself, it's very easy for me to slot into whatever kind of mood or momentum that they find themselves most comfortable with. So yeah, I think that's like the biggest strengths. Big weaknesses would be sometimes I allow myself to get too distracted by my own jokes. Like this is where like not having the highest MMR in the world will come in. There's aspects of the game that I might not have the greatest grasp on initially, and that might take me some time to cotton on to what the players were doing. So sometimes it'll be like 30 minutes later, I'll be like, oh shit, I see exactly what this person was trying to do here. That's what makes a lot of sense at this point.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think those would be like biggest strengths, biggest weaknesses. And I guess with another big weakness that I do have is that I sometimes can ramble, but that just is what it is. I just talk a lot. So yeah, but I try not to do that in game as much as possible, which
Sure. Sure.
sometimes leads into another dumb weakness, which will be if I'm trying to prevent myself from rambling, I sometimes overcorrect and there'll be a bit more downtime than necessary, but it is what it is.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's definitely a good problem for a caster to have, right? Better for you to talk too much than too little, naturally, right? A
Hmm.
lot easier to scale back. Give me 5 seconds. I'm gonna get water real quick. All right. So, what of those weaknesses? What specifically do you want to take a look at from this? Is there anything specifically that you're trying to work on more than some of the other things? Like the
Yeah.
rambling bit is not necessarily something that is really going to. I mean, that's just something you know that you do, right? And you're just going to scale it back over time.
Yeah.
That's very much something that you can figure out.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I would like from like someone like you, for example, is ways to help in like basically strategies on what to do when I'm actually nonplussed about what to say about the game. Where it's very clear that there's like a strategic thing happening that's above my head at that point. What's the best way to cover instead of being like, okay, I don't understand this or speaking negatively about it because I don't understand it. Yeah, so like being able to cover that particular portion of things and make it that. I think also another weakness that I didn't bring up is that I'm not very good at making it clearly over game competitive, make it sound competitive, sound entertaining to watch, despite like going in a different direction. So I think those are the best things that I need to focus on. How to plug my own, how to not necessarily plug my own knowledge gap. Obviously, I think we needs more Dota to be played, but in broadcast, when it's very clear that there is a knowledge gap, what's the best way to go about communicating to the audience about the game without revealing too much of that gap, whilst also making sure that if the gap is not there and the game is actually just over, as it seems, ways to make that contest still entertaining in the broadcast itself.
Okay. So I like the fact that you just say that you haven't played enough Dota yet. I like that attitude. I would say there are certain advantages to not being as tuned in to pro analysis of the game, which is the fact that you can always look on, I feel like, the bright side. So this is something that I've talked to with, say, like Blitz or Fogged or some of the other like analytical casters, that they have a hard time staying interested and staying excited about a game when they know there are like no outs for the losing
Yeah.
team. There's just no possibility. Whereas I feel like the less you know about the game, the more suspension of disbelief. Like that suspension of disbelief is easier to attain, right? Because
Mm.
comebacks are like, that is the great thing about Dota, is that comebacks are always possible. And you know, like those jaded ex-pro players are all, you know, like they just don't really feel like a comeback is possible. If you can hold on to that belief that that comebacks are always possible in Dota, that's always a good thing. So I'm gonna start off just checking out your intro.
The beginning is
Gentlemen, and my
Go ahead.
oh, okay. At the beginning is just me. Kips only jumped on like later on in the day. So at the beginning it's just me solo, and then Kips came a bit later.
Okay. I didn't notice how long this VOD was. Was there a specific game
As long as
that you
fucked
wanted
it.
to start with?
Go to let's go to that first game there. Go to like so you go to like 3:30, I think 3 hours 30.
ladies, gentlemen, and my NBA comrades, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We're back for some BO3s. We're finally out of the grinder that is BO1s, and now we're here for some real Dota. BO3s is the real stuff. Oh snap, is Kips back?
Nice. Do you
Yeah.
do a standard intro by chance? Like with
I have a more standard one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I
I
feel
can
like,
actually my standard one is just like that welcome thing, ladies and gentlemen, welcome this, what the game is, what the stakes are, what's happening, and then then I go into the game.
Okay, cool. I think having a standard opener is always pretty good. You know, sometimes the repetition builds into your brand really nicely. So I thought this intro that sounded really nice to me. I really
snap.
like
I
that.
come through,
The
come
fact that
through,
you
come through.
worked in the fact that we're out of the best of ones and into real Dota. That felt like a really nice intro to me.
because I trust
So
Boom, right?
that was great.
That's if you're a Viking fan right here, just like
Would you rush
All right,
first off?
so let's start off with the most notorious downtime moment, which is the
Yeah.
laning
This
phase,
game I would be very proud.
all the hype.
or pre-laning phase.
Another question
That
is
is
how
some
quickly do
illegal
you
gameplay
rush Glimmer Cape? Would you rush 4-star? What are you
I
doing to try and get away
hate
from
when
them?
everybody
I think Glimmer
spams
Cape's
their
probably
voice
the way.
lines all at once.
They are
Oh yeah,
coming in
because
for-
can't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm
It
trying
could
to
be Blink as
talk.
well, yeah. If you can
Stop
farm
spamming,
Blink, because you know
please.
Boom's gonna get Boom with the Blink first. Gonna try and run you down often. Fight's gonna break out now. Nice hook storm connecting only.
Hold on. I'm gonna turn up volume a little bit.
Yeah, the volume on this one is a bit screwy. My
Onto
bad.
Celery. The coconut though, bouncing between Ace and Rasmus. So Ace, unclose the gap for the rate fire blast until it's
So I
well too
didn't
late.
actually
Celery.
hear if you built up
Would
into
you
that
rush
at
full
all.
stop? What are you doing to try and get away from Boom? I think Glimmer Cave probably the way. They are coming in for a quick gank here from Viking. It could be Blink as well, yeah. If you can farm Blink, because you know Boom's gonna get Boom with the Blink first. Gonna try and run you down often. Fight's gonna break out now. Nice hook storm connecting only onto Celery. The coconut though, bouncing between Ace and Rasmus. So Ace, unclose the gap for the rate fire blast until it's
So you guys, you were talking about Blink Dagger on some hero, right? Sounds like. So for that little bit, so for when it comes to synergy with your co-caster, I do not mind necessarily letting obvious kills kind of happen and still playing out your back and forth of analysis if it's a conversation that you feel like is worthy. That being said, I do feel like 5-man smokes are always something that you can go ahead and put the analysis on hold. And, you know, like, you're going to have plenty of time to get back to it, right? They're going to crash into each other. Something's going to happen, and they're both going to go back to their own corners. And you're going to have a solid, like, minute of people running out to lanes and nothing happening and just basic CSing. So I feel like that was a little bit that you could have just put on hold. And, you know, don't feel too... don't feel too indebted or anything to engage with your analyst about what they want to talk about if there's gonna be some action, right? You can always circle back to it, right? So I would have liked to see a little bit more set up for this 5-man smoke,
because here's Gilga.
right? Because we know they were 5-man smoke, and we know they were going to be running into all of Hellbear Smashers. So, you know, like, something bad was going to happen, most likely for Viking GG.
Playing Enchantress with level 1 impetus instead of Palpatine shots. Ah well, Akon shot does nothing. Everybody lives, it's all good.
Speed up. Playback
Yeah, that's
speed.
the other reason to root for Viking here, right? It's the hoodwinked doubt.
We have to see this hero lose, like, as often as humanly possible, so everybody stops picking it. I'm gonna be so upset once we get to the major, though. I guarantee some team has worked out some OP hoodwink strike. I'm gonna be like, wow, this looks amazing. I'm gonna be a sad day for a
I
while.
have seen I've seen a really good synergy with Storm Spirits. Storm Spirit zips in over a long range and holds them long enough for
That is
a
some illegal
pretty good
gameplay right there.
sharpshooter to come out.
I saw that ending the way.
That is some
legit.
illegal gameplay right there.
Something else that's legit is that Hellbear Smashers, despite not being able to find first blood, they position in such a way that they got themselves the first 3 bounties. So decent start to the laning phase. for Hellbear
Nice.
Smashers,
Covered the fact that they got 3 bounties.
was fairly
I
experienced.
like the fact that we're willing to jump on, especially newer heroes, right? Because people just naturally going to know less. The fact you're willing to jump on the theoretical conversation. Hypothetical conversations are always, I think, really good time fillers. Whether it's silly hypotheticals or legitimate hypotheticals, talking about like what heroes might be good with certain combinations, whether or not like shards and aghanim's are great conversation pieces to be able to have for like, what do you think about this hero's aghanim scepter? Because we very rarely see it. I think it's legit, like especially if you have an opinion about it. Like I've played with it, it feels really good in these certain scenarios. What do you think, right? That is always, if you can tie in a personal experience that you have had with a hero, and be able to pass that question off to your analyst. Maybe your analyst is going to tell you, no, that's dog shit. What the fuck were you doing with building an aghanim scepter, right? But it's still a funny moment.
Yeah.
The worst that could happen is your analyst turns it into shitting on you, which is still a funny moment.
It's
Maybe
content.
Yeah. No matter what it is, it's content, right? Maybe they agree with you and they're like, no, I actually fully agree. This thing is super underrated. I've been toying around with it. It feels super strong. Maybe they take a more hypothetical approach to it and they talk about like, yeah, I could see how it fits and maybe it has really good synergy with some other heroes or something. So the fact that you lead off on like just the fact that there could be strong combos with Hoodwink is really nice. If you had any personal experience with that, like Kips was able to put in, she saw like Storm Spirit, I think, as a hero that combos well with it. That's just gonna feel a bit nicer. But the fact that you already start off with that as a nice little time filler is really good.
Come from. Despite the Terrorblade being in the game, the Boom cannot reliably find the Winter Wyvern in the game super hard. So this matchup though doesn't necessarily favor the Tiny. Stormstormer, despite first 2ing the TA here, should himself in a situation where he gets all the farm that he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. TA feels very fine in this matchup. It's Boom who has to watch out. Of course, Stormstormer, there's one thing that he does need to respect, and that's Boom's ability to throw him on the tower. Because if he gets out-tossed and...
Okay, you guys cover the mid lane nicely.
So Viking, the fact that Kezu's having a decent-ish time.
But I always like to see a little bit of structure when it comes to laning phase, and the fact that over the course of like 5 minutes, we're going to cover each one of the lanes to some extent.
Yeah, that's what I doubt a little bit about Hellbear Smashers' lineup here. Is Ace
Normally
is
start
very
middle,
much
and I'll go
play
like,
groups
I'll
so
see which
early.
lane is more important on the side.
Always
Yeah.
bringing 2 cores to these fights. That's their style, right? And they juggle which 2 cores those are. And if you bring only your center, if you only bring Rasmus to those fights, you're just gonna...
So one thing that Kips is doing well here is that she's going to go ahead and take what is looking to be kind of a boring laning phase, right? Maybe some action that's going to break out soon, but just not yet. So she's taking an overall approach of like, what does this team want to do? What does Hellbear Smashers want to do as a whole? What is their strategy? That is always a good question to direct as a play-by-play. If you feel like you've kind of looked at the laning phase and stuff, and there's ever a lull, you just don't know really what to talk about necessarily, one of the go-tos, the old ye old faithfuls, is to be able to talk, ask your analysts, what do you think this team's lineup is about? What is their timings is a good go-to? Like, when are they going to be strong? When are they going to be weak? Like very obvious responses are going to be they have better late game. They just want to stall, right? If they say that is the blandest response that they give you, and if they ever give you that response, then you can focus on the other team, right? Okay, so this team is just going to be drawing the game out. So what timing specifically does the other team need to hit? What items are going to be really important? What levels? If there's a certain level that is going to be more important, like Wraith King hitting, level 2 of his reincarnation is really big. Usually around the time he has Radiance, maybe he's going to go an Armlet Deso build. If you could talk about the differences in builds, if you know that, for example, TA has a very standard build right now. It's Hurricane Pike Desolator. It's just this crazy strong build. But Wraith Kings have two different builds. They can go Radiance build, or they can go the Armlet Desolator build. So if you know that there's different builds to a hero that you've seen, asking your analyst straight up, like, which build do you think feels better this game? Those are all like really good time filler questions that are always going to tackle the like bigger, broader picture of the game. And whatever you get off of your analyst there, you can always circle back to. And I think circling back in general commentary always feels very nice, because you can talk about the fact that your analyst was right or wrong about something, you know?
You get that narrative continuity, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever she's going to be saying here is something that you can always be able to reference back.
To do it for the team. You just gotta sometimes. It is what it is. Speaking of Rasmus,
Your TA needs her blink.
somebody's gotta get the blink. You need the double blink, right? Like one TA and Rasmus. I don't think they can afford to have one of those super greedy games where Centaur goes Vanguard full pipe and just opts to complete.
Another one, we kind of skipped past mid lane, so I didn't actually see what you guys kept talking about. But Tiny versus TA, right? There's differences between these heroes. One is a farming mid laner, and the other is more likely to be a ganking mid laner. So whenever you have that dynamic, or even if there's just even both ganking mid laners, as long as there is a mid laner that does move around and kill things, talking about what lanes are important for him to go kill, right? Because you are going to move around and kill, but you have choices, right? Are the supports going to move to his lane and kill the opposing mid laner? Is he going to move to top? Is he going to move to bottom? Like, where do you want to exert that pressure? That's always a good question to ask for your analysts as well. And again, it's something that will pay out very soon. You're going to see that first rotation, whether he picks up a haste rune or he picks up a TP or TPs to a side lane. Like, he's going to move, and then you'll be able to talk about the ramifications of that.
You skip over the blink dagger.
I think time filling when it comes to
Like you
Dota
mentioned,
is
because of the
all about
last
just
game that Ace might
asking
have
the
to have
right
for the sake of his team.
questions. And
Question that ideally can
Yeah,
also
but
still
there is-
to once the answer gets fulfilled, right?
say that again.
Asking the right question that you ideally can circle back to and highlight that answer when the answer does eventually emerge on the game itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to give you a time filler now during boring laning phases, and it's going to give you a time filler later on, no matter what, right? Like, you're going to be able to talk about the state of the game, you know, certain item timings, or you're going to be able to talk about the impact of the rotations of the mid laner. Like, it is always something that you can go back to if the game stalls out. So, like basically, you want to have that groundwork, that foundation of the right questions asked in the laning phase, the first 15 minutes of the game, and those will give you answers that you'll always be able to fill more time later on.
It's a world where
that makes sense, that
Ace
makes
gets the
sense,
blink
that makes
dagger,
sense.
but that's we haven't seen that world for a long time.
I was about to say, have you seen Ace play Wraith King? He's not playing blink dagger. I've seen him buy like overwhelming blink 1 or 2 games, but normally like at his last resort. Top lane, might have the first blood here. Tofu under threat, pops the magic stick, gets underneath the tier 1, so we'll be a-okay. Ace with the body blocks to make sure that Aramis cannot close the gap. Throws in a Wraithfire blast for good measure as well, just to let Wraith King know or remind this Dark Willow who the king of this lane is. But Ace will be fine.
Like that? You have a nice bit of
It's
flavor
all
that you add to
fine.
your
Everything's fine.
commentary
Look, middle,
for
it's almost
play-by-play.
almost
There's always a bit of personality. You're assigning personality to the players, and I think that's always a good thing. You know, even when you're wrong about it, it's still I think always sounds nice.
To have like something about the person that you're not just saying, so that it storms someone's TA, not just random TA.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, people showing off like ego or humility, caution, whatever that personality may be. The fact that they're displaying it in their gameplay, I think is important, because Dota players are notoriously bad at showing any personality. So
Lol.
You don't die here.
most personality they ever show is usually toxicity. So
I was about to say that, like, you know, there's lots of personality, maybe just not the type we desire.
yeah.
And then again, though, with Chucker,
Too many
also a very
dark
defensive
triad
support,
personality
coupled
traits,
up
man.
with-
Yeah, it's like, it's funny how it's like literally the players that are known for personality are just one of two things, right? They're either super toxic or they're super nice. right?
Oh yeah, but like absurdly nice. Yeah, there's no in between.
Yeah, so it's you know, I do kind of wish there was more personality, which would add.
Get to get
It,
away.
it would make our job easier, right, as commentators, if we had those
We
kind of
think that the turn big goes in
references.
this game,
But
given that he knows
because
that
we
the
don't,
primary threat obviously
in
is
some
gonna be
ways you have to
Dragon.
instill
You
that
just got to
personality.
prioritize tanking up early, don't worry about damage.
Almost
So,
guess
you know,
their
you
personality
go the
based
opposite
off of
direction,
their play.
Damage first, and then you say, well,
Don't
if
have a
Boom can't
personality, I
find the
will
kill
give
on the
you
win
one.
survivor, then at the very least I'm still a major threat in the rest of the fight.
He seems to think that it's going to be a Dragon Man turn first. I'd like to see an SMY, just to really make sure that those Winter's Curses don't hold on to him very long. If they get casted on him. Because he might also be a target, right?
I feel like he's
And
the
then
only one
after
who
that
really
is-
wants target.
Yeah, this has been a very boring laning
Level
phase.
6 now, by the way. Celery's in
I,
there.
I,
No
I,
idea,
I-
actually.
yeah, I can feel you guys. It definitely. I don't know. Like you can ask the questions that I talked about, but almost no matter what, if you don't have that synergy with your co-caster, where you guys are able to just kind of bullshit and have fun flawlessly, this kind of laning phase is always going to feel boring. So.
Get the toss back that you spoke about earlier into a bramble maze. Damage should be enough with the maledict to tick out. And they actually throw the tree, boom. Cures the first blood
That
from
is some
afar.
illegal gameplay right there.
Pretty great kill. The supports make good rotations from the side of Viking. And Gilgo did come in from Hellbear Smashers, but unfortunately in that situation couldn't.
Right, so if we ask the question of like, where's Tiny going to be moving, or is the support's going to move to him, this would have been an opportunity where you're able to fill more time and say, like, to basically your analyst is going to be right or wrong about what they predicted. But even if they're wrong, right, you could always lighten the blow by they moves in here, they give Tiny an opportunity to be able to win his lane, and then on the next power rune or something, we'll see if he rotates to, you know, the lane that you were talking about or whatever.
Couldn't really assist much. And that's first blood as well, kids. How is that even possible?
A late first blood, always good to highlight.
Nice.
See.
Your
Slow,
laugh is
deliberate,
hilarious, by the way.
early game. That's exactly what she means by CIS, you know.
It's great. I
Calm.
love it.
Hey. No, that definitely defines that scene. Well, with that
I mean,
first
that's
blood,
good. I laugh a lot on
top
stream,
of
so
the
it'd be a
network,
bad
takes the
idea
whole
if you were
round
like,
to
"Oh,
catch
stop
up.
laughing,
From a
fam.
situation where
Don't do
it
that
went
shit."
well.
Like, oh god.
Your laugh is really obnoxious. Stop it
In
now.
the opposite direction. There was also a lot of experience.
Damn
given.
it.
Tiny's level
And then
6,
I'd
but
nervously
decides
laugh
to
because I
move
wouldn't know
out
what to do.
lane. Because they don't have level 6 just yet on top, kind of feels unlikely that they get a kill on this side of the map, and you know Terrorblade's already in the jungle, so you just leave Rasmus alone. So maybe you just keep farming in this mid lane for Boom.
Yeah,
Just
if you
keep
do. When you have
farming.
two wards watching your flank as well, you're very safe there. And then again, it's also a hoodwink. I doubt that she's going to actually be able to roam into killing you. It's not like you're dealing with Stormstormer. Toss back.
Oh my gosh, that was so close. Feels bad.
We do have Shad retreating into the jungle now, though, which is Rasmus gets some alone time with his bottom tower. That feels very good for a Centaur. This is really what he wants to do. Stay in the lane after the carry has left. Push down the tower. I don't think so.
Okay, so another thing I've been kind of just chilling out listening to this. So another good filler question for these sort of things as you go. What are we?
Actually repel him.
What's the time here?
I think also because they
It's
have
like
Stampede,
10
Distillery
minutes or something,
shows
must-
and takes too much damage, then you might have...
Eight minutes in. Okay, so laning phase is going to start breaking down, right? We're going to start seeing heroes go into jungle. We're going to see various rotations start happening and stuff like that. And one of my favorite questions to ask is, if you set up who is going to win the lanes, if you ask that question, like what lanes were expected to win, and your analyst gives you an answer, right? This is a good time to be able to circle back on that. So who did win their lanes? And you can ask that question very broadly. So your analyst, if they were wrong about something, right? If they were wrong that Tiny is super far ahead of the TA or something and they expected the opposite, then it gives them the opportunity to explain their logic and their analysis of why they thought one thing, but the opposite happened. So they're going to be able to talk about the fact that, like, oh, because we saw that gank, the Tiny is shot up way ahead of the Templar Assassin, and then from there you can talk about, okay, what do they need to do to either correct this laning phase? What movements are we expecting to see? Generally, like, I'm just going to be giving you more analytical questions because the other part of filling this time is more about your synergy with your co-caster.
With the other person.
Yeah. There's only so much that I'm going to be able to really give you advice on that. That's just entirely your personality, right? That's just entirely however you like to be able to fill that time. Some people tell stories, some people make jokes. That's just unique to every single person. But I feel like no matter what, like analytical questions are always a good base because you can tell a story off of that because maybe you've experienced or seen something, or you can make jokes, you can talk shit about each other, like whatever it is. The analysis is a good baseline that is always going to fill some time, and you can always spiral off of that into who knows how long of a time filler. You may end up getting 5 minutes out of the fact that Kip says that it was bullshit that the TA lost this mid lane because she should have won it way harder, and then you can go into Flaming Stormstormer or who the fuck knows. So. But yeah, I think basically I think so much of Dota filler commentary because it's very long form. Dota casting is more of a marathon than a sprint. Like CS:GO goes round by round, right? It's like this is just going to be very long form, and so you're kind of always whatever foundation that you build in the laning phase is going to be the continued narrative. The same goes for the openers that you do, the beginning jokes. Like Blitz would always make, he would always have some sort of joke about me in many of our intros, and it would usually build, that would be the starting point of our banter back and forth. Right.
I get you.
Yeah, that's why I've been like really looking and just listening to this laning phase a lot, is because I think that for good commentary, it's all about momentum, and you just kind of need to be able to have a strong foundation for that. So that is pretty much all I can really give you for how to be able to fill out slower games more naturally. Is mostly just even just having a list of questions that you have. I don't have a list per se, but like mentally,
But I guess you mean just having
there,
like a
right?
stock standard thing of things, that comes up. That so basically before I even get to that part of the game, I can already have like things set up that, all right, in the event that things get into a lull, say post laning phase, these are the things that we should be discussing then. In the event that it gets into a lull, post big fight, post Roshan, just have like it'll be like what you're talking about now with continuing one particular thread of a thing. Whenever I watch Team Spirit play, I have this joke where I call Toronto, Tokyo two different cities instead of Toronto and Tokyo.
Yeah.
And people, as they come back, obviously they cotton onto that and they can get to continue the joke. But the kind of thing is that sometimes at the beginning of the game, I'll start thinking of cities in advance. I'm like, okay, I don't know which order I'll pull this up, but I'll pull this up at some point. So I'm imagining that I can do something similar here with the kind of questions to ask the analysts. Say, I don't know when I'm going to ask this or if I'm going to ask this, but I already have this in mind to ask if we get to the point where it's needed.
Yeah, exactly. I always have my like fail-safe questions that have just kind of developed naturally, and many of those were the ones I kind of listed. So when you say you call him two different cities, do you mean like you call him Berlin, New York, or something instead of Toronto?
Yeah, Berlin, New York, Soweto, Seoul.
Okay, that's good.
Harare, Havana. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right, that's a great example of just like being able to set the foundation for a joke that can just kind of continue throughout the rest of the cast. So yeah, you've already got a great idea for that. Yeah, is there anything else you really wanted to take a look at? Because for the other guys, they wanted to cover their play-by-play, so it was.
Let's do it. Right, go critique me. I don't know. Let's hear from one of the greats how I sound.
Oh, one of the greats. You
Yeah,
honor
man.
me. Let's see.
You don't have to like that shit, but that's true.
All right, so
Don't manage to get that.
man, this has been a slow game for you guys. 6-3, 15 minutes in. Whew.
They pop up on the side of the screen. You're like, what am I missing?
What just happened?
All right, looks like we just 4 heroes died.
Aegis, Shad. The double life available for the TB. Stormstormer.
So I'm assuming they
Finish
want a
the farm.
team
I think
fight
you just sit
Roche
back, finish the farm,
immediately.
the blink,
Oh
then
no,
try
they
to
got two picks.
Head onto the
Yeah,
eastern
this
part of
has
the map, and they
been-
will all live. Everything's fine.
Well, was not a barn burner.
That's
Let's just
when
put it that
Kid
way.
plays extremely
Yeah.
hard, especially for Ace.
But these two beefy. The 3 heroes gone. Hail this match.
Alright, oh yeah, there we go, there we go.
That's
Big fight,
success
big fight
and
just
turn
happened.
into-
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, nothing.
Okay,
Roche is
this-
gonna be 2 minutes away. Feels bad. Very nice initiation. And despite them being able to pick up the BKB right at this moment.
Let's go a little bit farther back because it seems like something already happened.
I'm thinking that, yeah, it should be flying out for Stormstormer right now. And you can see the line being drawn by Rasmus already. He wants to fight for that top tower. Which would
Turn off the speed here.
be great, but boom. Oh, add
There we
one
go.
to the counter.
But 2 on the boom kills Tofu counter right now. Getting a very nice initiation. And
I like
despite
that.
them being able to pick up the BKB right
kill
at this
counter for
moment,
boom.
That's when they wanted to smoke, but now they can't. You have to wait for this Winter Wyvern to come online. It's very unlikely.
Yeah,
that
so I'm noticing this from what you said with the Toronto Tokyo, now with this boom kill counter, you already have a good mind for setting those foundations for the jokes. Now you just do the same thing but with analysis, right?
BKB hasn't been scouted
yeah.
now, so they know. In fact, they're gonna smoke up immediately on the side of Viking to try and force a fight while they have the numerical advantage. Rasmus gonna be the first target caught out here. Posted up onto the wall. There's no possibility of surviving here as the Centaur. Coconut though does get dropped onto him, so it's not available for Ace. They jump in. Stormstormer able to bring down the Dark Willow, and with the BKB pop, Kezu's in danger as well, taking a lot of damage. Will end up taking a tumble. The TP out from Celery will not succeed. The Wraithfire Blast from Ace will make sure that he gets himself a double kill. And with 3 heroes gone, Hailware Smashes might be able to take that success and turn it into... Okay, nothing. Roche is gonna be 2 minutes away. Feels bad. Sorry, boys.
Okay, that was nice. One thing that so I like the variety of what I was hearing, different like action words that I was hearing. It all felt like you weren't saying X kills Y, Z kills, etc., etc. So I like the variety of like action words. I think you said posted up on the wall. That was one I hadn't heard before, so I like that. The one thing that I did notice is that sometimes some things, some surprising things will happen in team fights. You were already setting up the fact that Centaur was definitely going to die, right? And he does manage to get off like a 2-man stun, right? Or like the bushwhack that came in. So if you can hit those, what I call is like the proverbial roller coaster of a team fight, right? It's like, you've got your really hype moments and you want to feel those down moments as well. I want to feel that same thing, but with like surprise situations. So, that was a good bushwhack, or like, they managed to get a really nice disable in there. If I could feel a little bit more of that up and down, then... But otherwise, I thought that was really nice casting.
Like they just wanted to scare him a little bit, maybe get a BKB.
I just want to feel that a bit more emotion,
items that
a
are
bit more of the ride.
The up and downs, yeah. I think it's like with this game,
Roche
admittedly, like as you can probably hear,
GG,
like
get a
because the
cheese
game
as
was
well.
so kill light,
Yeah.
wasn't like in the zone
Able to kill
proper.
Rasmus,
So I
and
want to
now
find
they're
like a
back in the-
nicer fight a bit later
Yeah,
in
a
the
lot
same
of
game
things
though.
need to be right first.
Let's see, there's
I'll give you a time
two
just-
big offs here. I'm not expecting anything
Same
mega hype
reason
here, but
I don't date people who believe in astrology. Now we're back in the Roshan pit.
wait, what was that line? I missed
It's
it.
lost, so that's why I was asking you. I'm trying not to talk about Hoodwink because
I'm hoping you can't find that first because it was a bad joke.
Well, you've seen here, right, that in the reactive situations where Hoodwink has clear vision of the heroes, the enemy heroes, and they're grouped up, you can get really nice bushwhacks. You can
I'd
get
rather
really
see
nice
so
ults.
kill light. In game 2
Yeah, a lot
there
of
was a
things need to
pretty
be
big
right
fight. I'm trying to find the
first.
exact
Okay.
point
Yeah,
here.
you can link it to me.
To align. The same reason I don't date people who believe in astrology. Now we're back in the Roshan pit. Viking.
A wise man.
Do they take this for free, or do Hellbent Smasher try to stop them? It's going halfway, but now finally the smoke comes out. Tofu, who has access to the Glimmer Cape. They haven't gone in just yet. Boom is stalking the outskirts.
Okay,
There
so
was a fairly large fight happening here.
I would say,
Yeah.
I think whenever you're setting up a team fight, smokes are they're a godsend when it comes to play-by-play casting. I would say the initial way you set up this
yeah, a lot of
this
things
fight,
need to be right
make this joke.
first.
Kipsel responds and stuff.
Stars need to align. The same reason you don't date people who believe in astrology.
Okay,
Back
so
in the
we're
Roshan pit.
getting around the Roshan
Why
pit,
is that?
right?
Do they take this for free or
Do
you
they
know,
take this for
They're
free?
trying to stop them. It's going halfway, but now finally.
Right? I feel like you're starting to get into almost like a little bit of play-by-play, but I think one like super easy trick to be able to create a sense of tension for the atmosphere is slowing down your speech, right? So are they going to take this for free, or is Smashers going to contest with this smoke? Right? I want you to
I
focus
see
a
what you
little
mean,
bit
yeah.
more about what you already set it up. On one side, they're going to get Roshan for free. Nothing's going to happen. Or we're going to get a really big team fight. And I want to hear both the difference in those options, in the tone of your voice, but also the speed. I think the bit where you talk about Roshan being at half health, like in general, I want you to focus more on what is important here, which is the 5-man smoke's coming, and Smashers may just, who knows? Like, you can say maybe they're going to turn this whole game around. If you've been setting up a narrative that they're on the losing side, maybe this is their opportunity to turn the game around. Or it's Vikings in trouble because they're inside of the pit and Smashers is just about to invade, or whatever that is. I just feel like no matter what your wording is, I want to feel the sense of tension and dread. And I think the easiest way to accomplish that is slowing down right before the
Smoke comes out,
hype
Tofu.
happens.
Right before the action.
Has access to the
Okay.
Lava Cave. They haven't gone in just yet.
That
Boom is
makes
stalking
sense,
the
that makes
outskirts
sense,
of
that
this
makes
fight.
sense.
They have the observer ward on the high ground.
So and you're saying they haven't gone in just yet. If you switch that up, they haven't gone in just yet, right? And that just stretching that out and having the implication of it's gonna happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Like, that will just set up the team fight. So when you finally do hit your nice stride of play-by-play, once the action breaks out, it's gonna hit them harder in that regard.
Yeah.
Trying to
That's
destroy
what
it
you
now. With Tofu,
see
does
what
manage to
you
get this
mean.
D ward. Rasmus.
I don't think
prevents
much
it from
happened in
moving
this
around.
fight
There's a
either.
bramble maze
Yeah,
right
like
in
one
front,
person
so there's
died, might have been
no big
Sensor.
dagger
Yeah, I think 2
Central.
people die or
Shad is
something
not
like
actually
that.
hitting
But
the Roche. He's standing in a dead vision spot right now in the event that he could be spotted. And they do go onto the Raid King, but at the same time, Rasmus, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, takes too much damage. Stormstormer brings down Celery, but Shad able to kill Rasmus, and now they're back in the Roshan pit to try and finish this off. The Winter's Curse will come out. Arena of Blood catching both supports with the Terrorize. They're onto Tofu, and now there's no follow-up onto this. BKB popped as well by Kezo to try and help finish off this fight. They take the Rages with Shad. They're able to split the fight effectively, and despite not getting any kills, they're preventing Hellbent Smashers from doing anything effective at this point. Tofu under the...
okay, so I think this is one of those situations where you can give more judgment of what's happening for Hellbear Smashers. So, for example, Rasmus dies way away from his team, right? Almost every single situation that happens, you can call that out and be like, you don't have to do it in like a super negative way, but you can do it in like the OD Pixel sort of way. What he does is usually he does, what was he doing over there? Like he'll do that sort of thing where he is telling the audience that he is confused and he's not necessarily saying that was a bad play, but he is confused because that didn't look like a good play. Owen's really good at being able to throw shade at people without directly condemning them.
Like calling them out, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do to call them out. I'll be like, what's happening? Okay, mate, but I see what you mean. Like
Yeah,
being
no.
a bit more, doing it like reliably and continually.
Yeah.
I think.
And then I would have loved to hear more about how this fight, again, I would say just with a little bit more conviction of like, I mean, they were going for this team fight, and it's a shit show. They lost Rasmus at the start. They are losing a fight while Terrorblade's still doing Roshan, right? It's like none of this is going right for them. They didn't put together a good fight at all. And I feel like in this situation, it's obvious enough that you can go a little bit harder on it. you don't necessarily again have to do it in a way that is like what the hell are they doing, but you can be, you know, like the Toby, it's a disaster, like this is just terrible for them, you know. I think you can hit more of that personality because this fight is just such a mess, and that is also where your natural humor is going to come into play, you know. However you want to play this off, I think you could have hit this just being dysfunctional, you know, pretty hard, just because.
Could have talked about how Rasmus was checking emails from Dream League to see if they can bring in a coach.
Yeah, like,
attention to the fight.
Yeah, whatever that is, you know, like, especially if he has no buyback, right? He's checking the emails to see if he could bring in a 6 player, you know, like, yeah, whatever it is, right? You're naturally funny, so you're going to be able to come up with some things. Don't be afraid to highlight, even if it's not necessarily clowning on them, just like, that was a terrible fight. You know, terrible fights happen for everybody. You know, sometimes things just go horribly wrong. You know, maybe it's bad luck, maybe it's bad play, but either way, it happened and it was bad. So,
yeah,
end up taking a
yeah,
tumble.
I would say those are just two things that I just kind of like notice is I would love to hear more build up into whatever fights are happening, and for you to just focus on whatever it is you want to focus on more. Try not to feel too invested in the fact that you have to respond to your analysts. The fact that, you know, they're saying something and you need to be able to say something back. Feel free, because, you know, Toby was really good at ignoring whatever the fuck his analyst was saying.
Just going.
Yeah, he had a thing where he was focused on important moments and he would fucking block everything else out, right? And you don't want to go overboard on that fact, but you know, people held him in such high regard because he was able to do that, right? Because he did focus on hitting the big moments hard. Don't be afraid to do that, right? Because if you already naturally have personality and you can fill out time, and people are attracted to listening to you because they like your personality, you put that on display. Then the next part of making that step up the ladder, right, is showing you can hit hype moments really hard, right? There are some casters out there that it's like that they put out their personality, but it feels like they can't hit the hype moments the hardest. Lyrical puts out his personality, and he's a fun, jelly guy, and you always have a good time listening to him, but he hits hype moments hard in his own way, right? So I think
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So I think that is the next step for you, right? Because most casters, it's the other way around, right? They're so focused on hitting the hype moments that it feels like they're not putting their personality out there. I think you've got a good problem in that you have a personality and it comes out naturally. So you just have to be able to show people that you can hit the biggest games and the hypest moments really well.
My biggest problem, I think, when it comes to like the hypest moments is that I think I'm really bad at, or rather I feed too much off of the game. So the more boring a game or the less is happening, the less of my, like that particular hype that you're talking about, I can bring out on command. And the more action and more crazier things are going, it's easier to do. But of course, like you mentioned, being able to get to the top, the next step would be being able to bring that up on command, right? I shouldn't necessarily be relying on the game being insane to be able to bring out that degree of hype from me. It should be vice versa, right? I should be able to draw out that degree of hype, even if it's a boring ass 19-12 game where nothing happens. It should still sound like the most exciting thing ever. I see what you mean.
Yeah, no, I think don't put too much burden on yourself though in that regard. Sometimes it's better just to try and make a boring game entertaining. Sometimes it's better just to tell the audience, "Holy shit, this game is slow," and have a
This
fun
game
moment
sucks,
about
dude.
it. Yeah, like there is nothing happening in this one. You know, the audience is always going to be able to tell in some ways if you're lying. So. Don't put too much burden on yourself. A boring game is a boring game, and there's only so much that can save it.
So one last thing though, because I've taken some great advice, but let me try the question you asked earlier. Let me try to flip it back and ask from what you've seen, right? Obviously, I gave you my strengths and weaknesses just from the jump. I mean, it's not much that you've engaged in, of course, not like a full game. But if you were just having gone by, whizzed by in the last 5 minutes, not having spoken to me, what would you say is strengths and weaknesses? Just it'll also help, like in my mind, a little bit easier to conceptualize where best to put efforts as well.
I would try. I don't know how dedicated you are to having Kips as your co-caster if you're co-casting with other people. But I would say whatever it is, I would try and develop more of a duo because I do feel like there's not the most natural synergy between you guys. So some analysts just work better with certain play-by-play casters, right? Lacoste works really well for Owen because in a way Lacoste is a funny guy and Owen's a funny
Yeah, it's
guy,
a quiet Nemo.
and it's almost like a competition between the two of them to making wordplay and pun jokes that are going to make each other laugh, so they amp each other up. Sometimes what you guys have, I think you and Kips, is more of a let's see. It's a bit of an OD Fogged. It's a bit of an AC Draskell, where the personality is mostly coming out of the play-by-play, and then the analyst is more cool and calm and is just giving good knowledge. So you guys have, sometimes it's good to have differences in that regard. But the thing is that Fogged always finds a way to be able to laugh at Owen's jokes, and Draskell was always he was always such a grouch that he like just naturally the way he sounded, he bounced off of AC or Owen, who are very happy-go-lucky, energetic people. So that difference in level always felt good. You guys, I think, have a bit of that going on, but I do hear just a lack of general comfort and synergy with each other. So
I mean, that was our first time on mic together, so
yeah,
it is what it is.
that's
We
fair
need more
enough.
time to work together.
So I would definitely say developing a duo, just of any kind, is going to help you a lot because it's going to show people that you can synergize with somebody. And then whether or not that's the duo that you go on for the rest of your career to have doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you show people that you can synergize with other people, and the two of you elevate the cast to something better than just individually what you are, right? So that is the number one thing that I noticed. But again, this is your guys' first time casting together, so it's not surprising at all that you guys didn't necessarily feel comfortable with each other. But that is something that is one of the best ways to start climbing up the ladder, is just to be known for a certain duo and develop that synergy with somebody. I mean, it worked for me and Blitz, right? We're one of the first dedicated casting duos that was regularly casting with each other, and we developed such good synergy that people in some ways thought we were better than we individually were, right? So
Yeah. And then also, like you mentioned, it demonstrates the ability to be able to create that synergy. So you're an easier investment for the future. Yeah.
And same thing goes with what I was saying about being able to show that you can hit the hypest moments the hardest. That I think once you're able to show those two things, it's just going to level up your game as a caster, right? So maybe you already have the ability to do that, but the better, the more consistently, the better you're able to do those things, because you just never know, right? You never know when the insane team fight that's going to go up on Reddit and is going to go super viral. You never know what game is actually going to be able to. So you just have to focus on consistently being able to hit those moments, because the luck part is entirely what game you're casting. So.
I hear you. All right, thank you, Kat. Thank you, Chef.
Absolutely.
Thank you, good sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, good sir.
I think you already have a really good, strong basis, right? Because, like I said, it's most of the time casters don't have enough personality, and they don't have a good sense of humor. They're not natural entertainers, so they have to learn that side of things. For you, it's I feel like in some ways going to be the opposite. So I think that climb is going to be a lot easier for you. So, yeah.
All right. I'm ready to climb, cuz. I'm ready to climb. I'm ready. Thank you so much, Cap.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and
Absolutely.
good luck at the major, and hopefully see you soon in person at a major.
Yeah, sounds good. Good luck with the finals that you're doing today.
Tie. Talk to you later, fam. Thank you.
Peace.